Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome back to another session of Secret Tech series and Life with SI. Alhamdulillah, we have already crossed 1 week and today is the 9th day of Ramadan. Time is flying very fast. So today again, this is the 4th class of Knowing the Path to Allah. And this class is based on Shaykh Ibn Arabi Saih's magnum opus. And this book is a manual for those in the spiritual journey to know Allah and themselves. So this class will be taught by Imam Talut Dawood. For those who have been following up this session, I'm sure you all know who is Imam, but for the benefit of those who are new, let me just read to you a short bio of Imam. Imam Talut Dawood is a student of knowledge from United States who has studied Arabic and the religion for over 10 years. He specializes in Arabic translation and the Hanafi fiqh. He currently resides in Mexico where he has taught and served as Imam for the last 6 years. And he is also a murid and authorized muqaddam of Shaykh Mahisi Same. So with that, I'd like to invite Imam Talut over. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا من فضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. Okay, so we're going to continue, inshallah, with Bughiyatul Mustafid. And I will go, so as my practice is usually to read over a little bit of what we've covered, just so that it becomes more familiar in the minds of the people that have been following along. So I'm going to read from the previous page. Also, in the biography of the aforementioned Shaykh Sidi Ali, Sidi Ali is Sidi Ali bin Muhammad al-Wafa. May Allah be pleased with him. He mentions, just as the scholars of inner knowledge were distinguished with the knowledge of the way that leads to acting upon the sacred law inwardly and outwardly in the realm of dealings, likewise, they were distinguished with something others have no share in, sciences of divine knowledge and unique realities in the realm of unveiling and benevolent witnessing, because they obtain the knowledge of divine oneness that is specially reserved for the special elite, for the elect people who are complete by way of real unveiling and witnessing with the eyes. This is the knowledge that we mentioned above as being named knowledge of unveiling, since the one who possesses it uncovers knowledge of Allah, exalted is He, His beautiful names, and His exalted attributes that are inaccessible to the mind and unintelligible through speech. And it is the highest of the levels of belief, because belief is either through imitation, through intellectual inspection, or through unveiling and witnessing. The first is the belief of the masses. The second is the belief of the scholars of the outer sciences, who are incapable of the level of the people of Gnostic experience. And the last is the belief of the knowers of Allah, exalted is He. And as was mentioned before, this knowledge is the second type of inner knowledge. And it proceeds it is the proceeds or the results of the first type of inner knowledge, which is the science of right action inwardly and outwardly. Just as the science of right action is the proceeds or the results of outer knowledge. Then the source of the sciences of the people of perfection should have become clearer to you, and you should have perceived some of what secrets and experiences we alluded to by way of summary. And Allah, exalted as He, is praised for that. So basically, So we mentioned that there's two types of knowledge. There is apparent knowledge and hidden knowledge, and then the hidden knowledge is divided into two types. One is of the states of the heart, and and the intention and purifying one's intention, and the second type is through unveiling, and they're all built upon each other. It's not like this is like everybody has a separate role to play, and the Sufis don't involve themselves in knowledge. No, this is a bid'ah. This is an innovation of many of the people that ascribe themselves to tasawwuf, that they don't seek knowledge. No, we seek knowledge, and the knowledge that we seek is knowledge that is beneficial, as we will see, inshallah, when we come to it. So the you know early on we had the question about hidden knowledge and how is that different from the Batanis. Well, the Batanis, they claim that their inner knowledge is superior to the knowledge of the Sharia. This is not what the Sufis claim. No, the Sufis' knowledge is built upon their excellent and perfect practice of the Sharia. And so it will never leave the if it ever leaves or the Sharia, the confines of the Sharia, or if it ever contradicts the Sharia, the sacred law of Allah, then their knowledge ceases to be knowledge of tasawwuf, and it becomes something else. And so that is the difference between what we call hidden knowledge and what the Batinis call hidden knowledge. Is that the Sufi hidden knowledge, the hidden knowledge of the Sufis, who are the inheritors of these spiritual states from the early people who inherited from the companions, who inherited from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Their knowledge is completely built upon the sacred law, and without the sacred law, it would be nothing. And the Batinis claim that their knowledge, their secret knowledge, or their knowledge that no one else has, frees them of having to have knowledge of the sacred law or follow it. And a Sufi would never claim that. And so that is the difference between hidden knowledge of the Sufis and the hidden knowledge of the Batinis. And inshallah, that should have become very clear. So he segues out right now into a word of caution. So this section, he's going to caution people that may think that someone has to have complete knowledge of the sacred law or be a super deep or super knowledgeable scholar in order to practice tasawwuf and to receive its benefits. And he's going to caution that person because that's not what is meant. So a word of caution. Well, we have mentioned before, namely, the scholar of inner knowledge is the scholar who acts upon his knowledge, may be taken to mean that the precondition for having inner knowledge is for one to be drowning in outer knowledge and to encompass all of the sciences of the sacred law. But that is not what is intended. What knowledge is, what is intended and what has preceded is those things that are personally obligatory. So the knowledge that one must master is the knowledge that is personally obligatory. And what does personally obligatory mean? So there is knowledge that every morally responsible person must learn. And that relates to, his aqidah, so that his aqidah is correct. And that relates to the the pillars of Islam: salat, tahara, which is purification; salat, saum, which is fasting, and we're in the month of fasting now. So he must have knowledge of those things to and perfect his knowledge of those things and practice them correctly according to his knowledge. This is indispensable for every responsible, morally responsible person. Zakat and Hajj have special conditions. So zakat is only obligatory if you meet certain conditions, namely that you have a certain amount of money saved up that you don't owe for debts over a period of 1 year. And that on that money or on that wealth or on those possessions, you owe a certain amount of your earnings to the poor. This is zakat. However, if you don't have that particular amount of money, then there's nothing that you owe. So zakat is not obligatory upon you. So zakat is obligatory upon certain conditions. So when you have that amount, or if you feel that you're going to have that amount, is when your knowledge of the rulings of zakat and how to pay zakat become obligatory upon you. And so that is an example of personally obligatory knowledge. So it's not the knowledge, the tahara, the salat, and the fasting and aqidah, which is upon every single morally responsible human being. No. So personally obligatory knowledge is what is beyond that becomes obligatory upon you. It's that knowledge, includes that knowledge of salat and all of that, but it is knowledge that is also includes what is beyond that is obligatory upon you after certain conditions are fulfilled. So that is personally obligatory knowledge. So for somebody who wants to get married, it will be the rulings of marriage. For someone that wants to make Hajj, or who Hajj is obligatory for, it would be the rulings of Hajj. For someone who wants to slaughter an animal, for whatever sake, you want to slaughter an animal to give it to the poor, you want to slaughter an animal to have food to eat, then you would have to know the rulings of that. That is personally obligatory knowledge. And so this person, what Sidi Al-Arabi bin Saih is referring to when he says that the person is steeped or dives deep into the ocean of the sacred law, what he is referring to is that person who leaves none of the personally obligatory knowledge alone, and he gains all of it to the extent that it to the limit that is available. That is a person who has become steeped in the sacred law. So it doesn't mean that he knows all of the rulings of fiqh. It doesn't mean that he can give you the tafsir on every ayat of Quran, or that he can explain Sahih Bukhari. No, these are special. Those are the jobs of specialists. And if it was that way, then only scholars could become Sufis, and only scholars could succeed on the path. But that is not what we're talking about. However, when it comes to personally obligatory knowledge, that means the knowledge that is obligatory on every person, and then the knowledge that is obligatory upon you in your state and in your situation, you have to master it in order to have success on the Sufi path. And so we should all renew our intentions to study sacred knowledge and to put it into practice, and to master what is obligatory upon us, and to put it into practice exactly how we learned it from our teachers. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to assist. Ameen. And so what the knowledge that is intended and what has preceded is those things that are personally obligatory. In other words, they are those things that every aspirant needs in his traveling on the path. That is because many of the outer sciences, many of the didactic sciences have nothing to do with traveling or wayfaring. Because if that were the case, it would bring about belittling the station of many of the luminaries of the path, because many of them were not experts in the sciences of the sacred law. This is evident if you read the biographies of many of the Sufis, the great Sufis of the previous ages. You will find out that many of them did not have a lot of studying. They did not have a lot of mastery of the different sciences. A big example is Sidi Abdulaziz at Dabagh, who had no portion, of the sacred sciences. However, he mastered, his personally obligatory, and he was able to, because he was a qutub, and we'll get to that. But because he was a qutub, he and he encompassed all of the knowledge of the sacred law for the people of his time, but that is a special station. Another example is, since this book is from the Tijani Saints, the author of Jawahir al-Ma'ani had very little training in the sacred law, and he had no knowledge of putting together and authoring books. So, Sidi Arabi and Saih, he says that this is one of the miracles of Sidi Ali Harazim, the author of Jawahir al-Ma'ani, that he was able to author such a book and that it gained such acceptance even with the scholars of his time, and then later scholars. It gained such acceptance despite the fact that he was not a learned person. And so he said this is one of his miracles. And so the upshot is that when we say that one must learn and act upon his knowledge, we are saying that he must learn what is personally obligatory and act upon that perfectly. And that is when he will have access to the hidden knowledge. And the upshot, the summary is that it is only a requirement that the complete saints, such as the Poles and their like, encompass all the sciences of the sacred law. And he said he summarized the quote from Al-Jaysh. So he quotes a lot from different books, and this one is from Al-Masnawi. And so Ash-Sha'rani, he continues, Ash-Sha'rani has narrated in At-Tabaqat and elsewhere from Sidi Ali Khawas, radiallahu anhu, things related to this that would dazzle the ears and cause them to delight. And the summary of that is, Sidi Ali Khawas says, the complete person among the men of the path encompasses all of the rulings of the sacred law, their foundations and related rulings, their expressions and their comprehension, their abrogating and abrogated evidences, their rulings, their legal causes, and the different ways of extracting them, etc., by way of true unveiling. And if for some reason the books containing these things were to become wiped out altogether or individually, he would be able to replace them all from his chest, meaning from what he would be able to dictate from his own heart, everything that those books contained, without leaving out a single issue. And so he's talking about the Al-Qutb al-Kabir, the great Qutb, and so this is Qutb is common terminology amongst the Sufis. So basically, we will explain a little bit, but it's really beyond what we want to see here. So the Qutb is the complete saints. The complete saints means the complete or the perfect Gnostic, somebody who has complete ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Qutb is there is a diwan of saints, diwan of Islamic saints, and it contains a number of different categories of saints. And the Qutb is the head of those saints, and he is the leader of all the saints of his time. And no saint is beyond his authority in a few matters. And so he's basically the person who is the greatest inheritor of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in any time. So Al-Arabi bin Saih, he continues, apparently what he means by the complete person that he has described is only the great pole or the greatest pole, the Al-Qutb al-Kabir, since he is the one who the secret of the glorious Quran outpours, onto whom the secret of the Quran outpours. Sidi Abul Abbas Al-Tijani radiallahu anhu said, only the great pole, only the great Qutb knows the secret of the Quran, even if he has not memorized the Quran. He explains it by a knowledge that outpours onto him, different to memorization, which does not outpour onto him anything. But it is imperative that he recite it like the masses recite it. And so his knowledge meets the masses, or the um, common, not the common, the regular people, in that he recites the Quran upon the recitations that were transmitted, uh, but he learns the Quran from an outpouring from the divine presence. He also clarified in Jawahid al-Ma'ani, may Allah be pleased with him, and some of his answers, that only the Fard Jamit. So Fard Jamit, Fard is a unique saint, and Al-Jamit is the means comprehensive. But here, what it means is that he is the unique saint out of all of the saints, which refers to the Qutb of the time. Um, so only the Fard Jamit encompasses all the rulings of the sacred law and all of its sciences which people need, since he is the carrier of the sacred law in each time. This is the case even if he is illiterate or unlettered and had not learned, even if he had not learned to read. So he's going to get into another section. So the summary is that it is not necessary for a saint to be a complete scholar of the sacred law. It is only necessary that he master what is personally obligatory. And we must caution people when they take from a saint because he's a saint. If he is not a faqih, but he is a saint, then we seek him out for spiritual, we may seek him out for spiritual guidance. However, we seek fatwas from the specialists of the sacred law. And the exception to this is the Qutb of the time. If we happen to meet him, then he has knowledge of all of that. But the upshot is that when we say that somebody needs to have complete knowledge of the sacred law and act upon that knowledge in order to gain the knowledge that is within the knowledge of the inner knowledge of the Sufis, then what we mean is that it is personally obligatory knowledge. We don't mean knowledge beyond that. And there were many saints and they were qutubs who were the greatest saints of their time who did not have any formal learning. And so we don't make it a condition that people be a scholar. And if we hear about people that are saints, but they aren't scholars, then we shouldn't disrespect that. We should respect them. And, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward us for respecting them. And if we were to disrespect him, then we all know the hadith, man adali waliyan, man adali waliyan, faqad adnaytuhu bil harb. Whoever shows enmity to my wali, to my saint, to my friend, I declare war on him. So the next section is an addendum, and it is kind of a summary of what he had basically put forth in this section. He says this section is meant to summarize and conclude the previous section on the origin of the science of the people of Allah, exalted is He, and may Allah be pleased with them all, and they with him. The author, who is completely concerned to prevent himself from entering the fire and is anxious about his religion and entering into the abode of righteousness, confirms that all of them are upon right guidance from Allah, exalted is He, and have clear evidence from Him and all that they have come with and abandoned. Neither what they conceal nor what they let be known falls outside of the sacred law. And so he's talking about himself when he says that the author was concerned anxious to not enter the fire and concerned for his religion. He's talking about himself. And so he's bearing witness to the fact that all of the people of Allah and all of the people of the sacred sciences, the scholars, and all of the people of Allah are upon right guidance. And they are, as the author of Al-Yawaqid al-Jawahir said, they are like the mujtahid imams. It is not appropriate for anyone to not deny what they say until he has entered their path and understood their technical language. And everything that reaches us concerning them that appears to stray from the sacred law is spurious, or because of a state that overcame them or happened at the beginning of their wayfaring. But as for the complete ones, their path is consecrated in good manners with a golden consecration, since they are protectors of the religion and its auxiliaries. They are the protectors and helpers of the religion. He also said in another place in the same book, the only reason some people deny the people of the path is the paltriness of their intellect. But if the denier has stuck to good manners, he would submit to the people everything that does not contradict the book, sunnah, or consensus, yet differs from his own understanding. He would show deference to the people. So basically, what they mean here is that, or what the author of Yawaqid al-Jawahir meant is that so the person, there are people who criticize the people of the path. However, if what they are doing or what they are saying does not directly contradict something in the book, and what we mean by the book and the sunnah, we don't mean secondary interpretations from the book and the sunnah. We mean something that is mentioned explicitly in the book and the sunnah. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La taqrabu zina. O you who believe, do not come near zina. So zina is explicitly mentioned as a sin in the sacred law, in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or wine, or if he neglects the salat. These things one may criticize anyone for because they are explicitly mentioned in the book or the sunnah, or if he doesn't contradict consensus of the scholars of any of the scholars. If it differs from his own understanding, then he must defer to them and say they must have some knowledge that I didn't have. And if he does that, he will benefit immensely. But that is not, unfortunately, that's not human nature. And many times we, subhanAllah, we criticize things that we don't understand, but we can't find, an explicit rejection for in the Quran and Sunnah. So we need to be careful of that. And Al-Arabi bin Saih says, I say There is no way for him to know what contradicts the book and the sunnah and consensus except by encompassing all the sayings of the mujtahids, as well as knowing all the contentions and foundations upon which they base their schools of law. And how can these people who are running headlong into danger, may Allah pardon us and them, accomplish this? And how can they arrive at that? Then it should suffice them, and meaning, so you would have to know each of the schools, the not just the four. We know four madhahib because there are four madhahib of the Sunni Islam today. So we know these four madhahib, but there are many, many, many madhahib. When you study the six books of hadith, when you study different beyond just the beginning fiqh books, then you start to see different opinions creep up. You know, where they talk about the different opinions that were around during the times of the four imams. So you know, they say Shafi'i said this, Dawood al-Zahiri said this. Dawood al-Zahiri was a little bit later, but the same applies. Dawood al-Zahiri said this. Sufyan al-Thawri said this. All of these people had their own madhahib. And so you would have to actually know all of these different sayings and know them well and all of the foundations of each of those schools in order for you to say that this is outside of the book and sunnah. And so this is what he's saying. How can anybody claim that they have this? How can anybody do this? How can we do this? You know, so it is best for us to say, I don't know. And maybe he has some basis for what he is doing. And so he says you should see Ibris. He's talking about um, the book about the life and the teachings of Sidi Abdulaziz al-Dabagh for more information about this matter, because the author has done such an excellent job of explaining it that no one refuses to accept it except a pure rejecter of the greatest kind who puts aside what is correct. Perhaps we will discuss some of that throughout this book, Allah willing. Then he says, Ash-Sha'rani, may Allah be pleased with him, says in another part of the same book, Yawaqit al-Jawahir, narrating from Shaykh Muhyiddin ibn Arabi. It is not hidden that the denial of the enemy liars is only rooted in envy. If the deniers would only abandon envy and travel the path of the people of Allah, denial would not manifest from them, and knowledge would be added to the knowledge that they already had. However, that is how things are. But there is no might, and there is no might nor power except Allah, except with Allah, great and exalted. Then Muhyiddin said, the greatest enemies of the possessors of divinely bestowed knowledge in every time are the people of disputation who have no manners. And so he's talking about these scholars who have no adab. They are their biggest enemies. And when the knowers of Allah perceive that from them, they turn to indications, just as Maryam turned to indications. So they turn to rumuz, indications, subtle symbolic language, just as Maryam alayhi salam turned to using signs. She would make signs because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made her take an oath of fasting. And so she swore to fast. And for that reason, she only used signs to communicate with people. So the knowers of Allah, when they perceived that the people of disputation were their biggest enemies, they turned to using symbolic language. So according to them, each verse or hadith has 2 points of view, one of which is seen within themselves and one of which they see in what is outside of themselves. He, meaning Allah, blessed and exalted is He, has said, We shall soon show them our signs on the horizons and in themselves. So they name what they see within themselves as an indication or a symbol in order to safeguard those who deny them, and they do not call it exegesis. So they name their hidden understanding of the Quran symbolic or symbols, and they do not call it tafsir of that particular verse or hadith because of apprehension, because they understand the evil of the evil of their opposers, and that they also want to avoid that those people should cast accusations of disbelief at them because of the accuser's ignorance of the real's different modes of address. And so basically, they understood both the apparent meanings of the Quran and the inner meanings of the Quran, the hidden meanings of the Quran. And when they explained it, they would not call the inner or hidden meanings of the Quran tafsir, because those people who criticize them would not leave any opportunity to criticize them or to accuse them of disbelief. So to save them from that, because they knew that their accusers and their critics have no knowledge of the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala communicates in at different levels. Since they knew that, then they saved these people from their accusations of disbelief through uh, through using symbolic language, and through not calling their symbolic language as tafsir. And in that, they followed the conduct of those who came before them. Although the real, exalted as he, was able to explicitly state the interpretations of the people of Allah in his book, like ambiguous verses or the letters that begin some surahs, he, blessed and exalted as he, did not do that. Instead, he hid them in those divine words and letters as special sciences that only his sincere slaves know. If the deniers had only given it its proper due, they would have warned themselves within themselves when they saw a verse with the outward eye, with their physical eye. Or what this means is when they considered the verse only from the aspect of its apparent meaning, which they subject to what they understanding they have, and they would see that they are blessed in that, and they would recognize the superiority that some have over others in speech about and understanding of the meaning of those verses. And the one who shrinks from him will be better than the one who belittles him. But all of them are in a single stream. And so basically what he's saying is that the critics don't realize that they are the people of Allah are not denying their understanding of the Quran. And if they would just leave their criticism, they would realize that they are correct in what they are saying. Basically, their understanding of the verse is absolutely correct. And they would recognize that there are some people who are superior to them in understanding of the Quran. And there is nothing about this that is beyond the Quran and Sunnah. There are people who are superior to us in knowledge. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught, for 20 something years, his most senior companions, 20 years, his most senior companions, Abu Bakr, Umar, Ali, Uthman, and so many of them. But each of them knew that some of them had more knowledge about the Quran than others, and they would consult with each other. And so this is the same as what he's saying, is that they're all in the same stream. They all have knowledge of the Quran, but there are people who are superior to others. And if the people who would recognize who is superior to them, then they will be blessed in their knowledge and realize that they have an ample portion. and they would be thankful for it. And that's what Ibn Arabi is saying here. So then he continues, but despite their differing levels, what is known is that they deny the people of Allah when they come with something obscure to their understanding. So the critics deny the people of Allah when the people of Allah bring them meanings that they themselves have not understood or have not come upon. All of that is because of their not believing that the people of Allah know the sacred law. So, and this is because many of the people of outward sciences who criticize the Sufis, they don't believe that the Sufis know anything about the Quran and Sunnah. And so you will see them saying, he's not upon the Sunnah, or that's not from the Sunnah, or the Sunnah is this, and he's contradicting the Sunnah. And so they consider them as ignorant people. They only attributed them with ignorance and being of the common folk, especially if they had not learned from one of the scholars of outer knowledge. And they often say, where does this knowledge come from? Due to their belief that no one obtains knowledge except in the hands of a teacher. And they are right in that. They are right in saying that knowledge only comes from a teacher. Allah exalted as He gives the people who act upon, then he said, Allah exalted as He gives the people who act upon what they know, knowledge from Himself by means of divine teaching that He reveals in their heart, which conforms to what the sacred law has come with. Not a mustard seed's weight of it falls outside of the sacred law. He said, exalted is He created mankind, He taught him speech. And so what Ibn Arabi is saying, yes, you're right. Knowledge requires a teacher, but their teacher is Allah. And Allah teaches people. And it is only because of their short-sightedness that they don't understand that Allah indeed teaches people. So he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ عَلَّمَهُ الْبَيَانِ. He created mankind, He taught him speech. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also said in Surah Al-Alaq, عَلَّمَ الْإِنسَانَ مَا لَمْ يَعْلَمْ. And He said about, He taught man what he had not known. And He said about His slave Al-Khidr, alayhi salam, that He taught him a science from Himself. And although the deniers were truthful in saying knowledge only comes about by means of a teacher, they had erred in believing that Allah exalted as He only teaches prophets and messengers directly. He said He gives wisdom to whomever He wills, Surah Al-Baqarah. And wisdom is a type of knowledge. In addition, He brought it with man, which is indefinite. However, since I'm going to finish right now, inshallah. However, since these deniers prefer the world to the hereafter and to what that which brings one close to Allah, and because of their having become accustomed to taking knowledge from books and from the mouths of men, they were veiled from knowing that Allah has slaves whose instruction He has taken upon Himself in their inner selves, in their inner realities, since He is the real teacher of the entire universe. And His knowledge is the most correct knowledge, whose perfection neither believer nor unbeliever doubts. And so we can end it right there, inshallah. And I'll turn it back over to Sidi Amin.
Okay, Sidi. Thank you. We do have a few questions only this time.
Okay.
The more they listen, the more they have lesser questions, maybe. Okay. So the first question, you mentioned that it's difficult to see the saints of our time. So what are some advice you will share for us to see for us to witness the sense of time, and also maybe you can share just your personal experience about how you found your Shaykh.
Well, recognizing the saints is difficult. Um, one of the saints said, knowing Allah is easier than recognizing a saint, and that is because Allah has required that the saints their true attributes be hidden and not manifest, because perfection is only for Him. And so recognizing the saints is something that is very difficult. We should take the rule, and I feel confident that if we take this rule, then we will be able to recognize saintly people who are among us, and saintly people when we find them. And that is that Shaykh Hassan Sisi said that you don't know, you know, who is a wali of Allah. So the best thing is to treat everyone you meet as if they are the qutb of the time, as if they are the greatest wali of the time. And I feel confident that if we follow that advice, we will be able to recognize, recognize this. So, in regards to finding my sheikh, it was difficult because I came out of a tariqah, and in that tariqah, there were many pretenders. And so I was wary of taking the hand of anyone. And so what is he saying? When I subhanallah, when I took the tariqah, the first thing that happened to me was that because I was wary of taking the hand of someone, I was taken in by somebody based on, you don't have to have a direct sheikh. Shaykh Al-Tijani radiallahu anhu was your sheikh. And so this I didn't understand. I understood to mean that Shaykh Al-Tijani is my sheikh. I don't need a sheikh. And so because I didn't want to get back into taking the hand of pretenders. However, when I started to do the awrad, I started to experience many things. And one of the things that will tell you who is a real sheikh is that when you start to experience things, he can tell you what you're doing, what you're experiencing, and what the next step is, and how to protect yourself from falling where you are. And so the muqaddam who I was keeping contact with, I called him, telling him things that I was seeing. And I was looking for guidance, and instead of telling me what to do, he just says, Allahu Akbar, subhanallah, this is tawheed, and didn't give me any guidance. And so after a few times of that, I called my sheikh because I had his number all the time, and I told him what I was experiencing at the time, and he said, no, you need to take Tarabiyah. And so I started with the process of Tarabiyah in the way of Shaykh Ibrahim Niyas radiallahu anhu. And then when I went to go see him, my heart just fell in love. And that was so that's my experience. It's I didn't have to search, and that's my advice. Don't put so much energy into searching. Do what Shaykh Al-Tijani radiallahu anhu said is that you should recite Salatul Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the intention of meeting a sheikh. And so if you recite enough Salatul Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, enough prayers upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then one of three things will happen. The first is that Allah will teach you directly, and that happens to some people. Or the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you will meet the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he will become your guide, and that happens to some people. But for most of us, for most of us, you will be led eventually, through your states. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will lead you to the hands of somebody who can guide you. And to know how, to know if he's the correct sheikh, then he should be able to tell you what the next steps is and what you're experiencing.
Okay, thank you, Imam Talut. So somewhat related to this, because now we meet a lot of alims and ulama, who travel and give speeches and everything. So one of the brother was also asking, what is the single most sign that distinguish a scholar from a wali, so that we are able to distinguish whom we can seek for spiritual guidance?
So like we go back to what Sidi Arabi bin Saih mentions here, is that the scholar of inner knowledge, or the wali who can guide you, can tell you the ways to solve the problems of your heart, not your worldly problems, because many of us have this problem that we seek the scholars because we want them to help us to solve our problems with our marriage, or our problems with our family, or any number of our social problems. And you may meet a sheikh who is able to do that. However, that's not their domain. So the sign that somebody is a scholar of the inner knowledge, who is a wali who can guide you, is that when you ask them the ways to get rid of certain issues that you have. So say you confide in him. One of the biggest issues of our time is addiction to pornography. This is a big issue, and even amongst Muslims. So you approach the scholar, and he is able to tell you the steps for you to take to rid yourself of that vice, completely. And it's not something that will happen overnight, but he is able to guide you through that process. Then that is somebody who has been taught the inner knowledge of the purification of the heart, if he can guide you through that process. If not, then he may be a scholar of outward knowledge, and we respect them and we learn from them. But we wouldn't put our spiritual matters in their hands.
So I think this will be the last question, Imam. Imam Talut, you mentioned that different Sahaba are given different levels of understanding of the Quran. Could you explain what it means when it is said that Sayyidina Ali is the door to the city of knowledge, and how should Sayyidina Ali be to those people who are in the tariqah, or those people who are seekers?
Okay, so when the saying that Sidna Ali Karmallah Wajhu is the door to the city of knowledge, Shaykh Al-Tijani radiallahu anhu, he said that this means that no one receives knowledge except through the mediation of Sidna Ali Karmallah Wajhu, whether they know it or not. And so that includes all of the Sahaba. However, he also mentions in the same section, he gives a clarification that the superiority, in one aspect does not indicate complete superiority in every single aspect. And so it doesn't mean that he was superior to all of the Sahaba in every single aspect. And he says that complete superiority in every aspect is only for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's what that means. And as far as the tariqah is concerned, most of the turuq come through Sayyidina Ali Karmala Wajah. The Naqshbandis, they have a sanad to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, so they theirs is to Abu Bakr, and there may be some others, but most come through Sayyidina Ali Karmala Wajah. And our tariqah, it is directly from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so those sanads that came through Sayyidina Ali Karmala Wajhahu, they are respected, but our sanad is directly from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. At the same time, being a companion, Sayyidina Ali Karmala Wajhahu is the door to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for all of us. So when we say certain things about this tariqah and exclusion from certain from the different sanads and the different chains of transmission of turuq and stuff like that, and we superiority of certain aspects of the tariqah and certain aspects of the Shaykh. When we say that, this does not include the companions. And so the companions are excluded from that rule, and Sayyidina Ali Karmala Wajhahu is excluded from that rule. And so our door to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is still Sayyidina Ali Karmala Wajhahu, and our door through the tariqah is Sayyidina Shaykh, and that is for Tijanis.
Okay. Thank you, Mom. I think for today, that's all the questions we have.
So
It was another very deep session once again. Thank you for it, for us to have this session with you. Maybe you would like to close this session with your dua.
Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. All that we ask you to grant us understanding of this book and of all the books of the turuq and of the tariqah, and we ask you to grant us understanding of the suluk of the traveling the path to you and the traveling the path, with you upon arrival. We ask you for the outpouring from the seal of your saints and from the seal of the seal of the prophets, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we ask you that you grant us all of the time, and especially in this month of Ramadan, special blessings that will lead us to more and more thankfulness and closeness to you. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Thank you, Imam. Inshallah, we will see you again next week.
Okay, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, guys, alhamdulillah, it was another beautiful and insightful session with Imam Talut. So I'd like to make some announcements regarding 2 more live sessions that will be happening today. At 5 p.m. we will have Ustaz Nazirul Mubin, and he will be speaking on the topic Conversations in Ramadan, a Ramadan experience in the land of the Ottomans. It's going to be interesting. And at 10 p.m. we will have Imam Dawood, and he will be speaking on Ramadan from Letters of Jewel by Shaykh Ibrahim Yas. You can find all of these details in the comments soon. And 2 more campaigns that we are doing for the people. Firstly, it's to support our ongoing Build a Hospital in Senegal project. We have the link below, and this project is mainly for the women who are going through maternity and for the children down there in Senegal. And this will directly help about 25,000 people in the village of Taibanias. and the surrounding population of up to 124,000. So this is a large population. So I hope all of us can do a small contribution which can go a long way, and this will also be a sadaqatul jariyah for a lot of us. So we can near for our elders or family members who have passed on, and you can also donate on their behalf. Inshallah, they will get the reward of this never ending until Qiyamah, inshallah. And secondly, a special project for this blessed month of Ramadan, we are partnering with Free Food for All to raise $60,000 to provide 25,000 meals and porridge in this month for those who are in need. So this is a bit more urgent also because of this month of Ramadan. So I hope all of you can make a contribution and share this with those people who will be passionate about these projects too. I think that's all. Inshallah, we will see you again at 5 p.m. Thank you very much.